What's up, guys? Welcome back to Airbnb ABCs. A question that I get a lot on this channel is where are the prices going for these short-term rentals, especially in the Smoky Mountains where all of my short-term rentals are. And in the Smoky Mountains market, if you're not familiar with it, it incorporates Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, Sevierville, and the greater Sevier County area. And I really only have one simple answer to that in a long-term perspective, which is what you really need to be looking at if you are a real estate investor, is that things are going up. You know, when I got into the Smokies mountain market in started looking about 2020 and got into it and bought our first two in 2021, things were going insane. I mean, when I started looking at two-bedroom places, they were going for like $350 to $425, and then by the time that I purchased my first one, the median price for a two-bedroom was at least like $500,000, and so things went nuts. And people expect things to, I hear a lot of people wondering if they're going to crash, if they're going to come back down. In my opinion, the answer is just simply no. I think that there has been kind of a tale of two different types of property since I got into this and since the prices have gone up dramatically. And the one thing I will say is I do not think that we are ever going to see the prices of like a two-bedroom cabin that's a nice cabin with a view that's in very high demand. We will never see that back at $250 ever. We won't see 4 and 5 bedrooms at $500,000, $400,000 ever. And there are a lot of folks out there who pine for those days, and unfortunately those days are gone. But also the days of those, renting for only $75 a night or, $150 a night in peak season is also gone. So things are moving up as markets always do. You can look at almost any chart of any market, the real estate market, S&P 500, anything, they always go up over time with, big rises and dips in them. But the tale of two different properties in the Smokies has been the very large properties and the smaller properties. When I talk about that, the large properties, I'm looking at the larger 3 bedrooms and up, especially the 4, 5, and 6 bedrooms. And for the smaller properties, you're looking at your studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and your smaller 3 bedrooms. The 3 bedrooms kind of a break over between small and large. To really get an idea of how these things are valued, you have to understand how cabins in the Smoky Mountains are valued to the investor and to the lenders and the people that are doing the property valuations. The thing is that they are technically classified as residential properties, and so they are valued on comps via appraisals like your typical neighborhood is. But really, they are commercial properties that are valued based on how much income they provide versus the expenses that you have running them, just like you would value almost any other type of commercial property. And actually, in the last, this last year, the Department of Revenue for Sevier County is starting to tax these as commercial properties as well. And so when you are looking at that, the way that the people are valuing these, it is more based on the income. And now when people go to buy and sell these, they still are based on the comps, but those prices end up being based on income. And so it just drives that comp-based value in the same fashion as the income-based value. And if that's a little tricky ins and outs, we can get that into detail on that more in a later video. But people are always going to value these based on their income potential. And so during the pandemic, with the low interest and the high demand and also the fear of missing out or FOMO, those drove prices insane. When we looked at those larger cabins of 3 bedrooms or more, they pretty much went to the moon, and you couldn't find a 4-bedroom cabin under about the $1 million mark. And that was pretty hard to find. They were going for 1.2, 1.5. The sky was the limit for anything, especially 5 and 6 bedrooms. Trying to get one of those under 1.5 million was absolutely almost impossible. These have seen the biggest price reductions since interest rates have went down, since the tourist demand has sort of declined since the end of the pandemic, and since the inflation has just gone absolutely insane and people have less money to spend on vacations. The reason that these have come down in price as well is because they are just in general less affordable to get into from a investor point of view. Not a lot of people have the amount of money to put down even 10, 15, or 20% on a $1 million plus property, and so there are fewer buyers, and so that makes trying to sell one of these things harder to do. They're also harder to fill up versus your smaller cabins. You were looking at probably multiple different families, multiple different friend groups, and it's harder to get those coordinated in order to fill these larger properties with their much larger price per night price tags. And so it puts some strain on the income side of things. If travel would come down in any way, shape, or form, as it did after the pandemic restrictions were kind of released a little bit. They also take more maintenance in order to keep up. There's just more things to take care of, more roof space, more HVAC units, furniture, and all that. So the expenses are higher. So when you're looking at that based on a net operating income type of fashion, it makes it less valuable because there are more things to maintain. So right now what I'm seeing is things in the 4-bedroom range are starting to be seen in the $700, $800, and $900,000 range instead of the $1 million, 1.2, 1.5. In the 5s and 6s are sort of maintaining that same sort of decline from their pandemic-induced super-duper highs. I suspect in some way there's going to be an overcorrection on the 4, 5, and 6-bedroom cabins, and that prices are probably right now as low as they're going to get on these cabins because they are still making a tremendous amount of money, even with coming down from your 2021, 2022 sort of peaks. And so I think that these are probably as cheap as we will see them in the near future. The smaller properties, though, are a little bit different story. And in my opinion, that these will either price sideways or are going to continue to go up in value, albeit at a slower rate than we've seen in the past 3 or 4 years. And the reason is that these are the bread and butter properties of the Smoky Mountains. These are your typical, smaller 3, 2, 1-bedroom studio cabins in the Smokies. They're easier to rent because you're only usually looking at, a family or a couple of couples getting together to rent one of these places. So they're very easy to keep filled even during the slow season. There's lower maintenance just because there is less stuff to take care of than in a much larger place. And in general, they are more affordable to the average investors. And in my opinion, new investors are always going to flock to these because they're going to take less money by far to get into. Right now, you can get into a nice 2-bedroom, 2-bath cabin for anywhere from, I want to say in the low end, $475, and that's probably on the very low end, to $650,000. That is a much more attainable amount of money to save up for that 10, 15, or 20% down payment versus something that is $1 million or more. So with that strong demand from guests and investors, in my opinion, the prices of these smaller cabins are going to rise if all of the things that we normally talk about are in place, such as these being, good properties that are all wood construction, that have that log cabin feel that people that are going to the Smokies want to see. If the place has a lot of drywall and it's a low price, that's probably why, because it's not the most desirable place for folks to go on their vacation. Places that have views of some sort or have a unique experience, such as they're near creeks or have lots of very cool amenities, those are also going to go for higher prices. And places that are well maintained and well managed are always going to go for higher prices than places aren't. Now, when we look at interest rates, a lot of folks have a lot to say about interest rates because they've gone up dramatically in the last 2 years. Interest rates, in my opinion, are always going to have an effect on folks, but not as much for investment properties as they do for homeowners. You see, when a homeowner purchases a house and they have to pay a higher rate of interest, it's really going to take a bite out of their budget because most of those folks have a job or, a couple jobs or something like that that provides a relatively fixed amount of income. It goes up slowly over time, but they're not, making, $1,000 more a month any given month. And so when they have to pay that higher rate of interest, they have to actually pay more. When investors have to pay a higher interest rate for an investment property, they just make less. And that is the difference, because if you're looking at a property that would have made $2,000 a month net at the end of the month, back in 2021 when interest rates were like 2.5% or whatever, and now interest rates are 7% and it's cost $1,000 more a month in interest, you are only looking at now making $1,000 versus this other person is going to have to pay $1,000 out more. And so interest rates don't affect the investor as much as they do the homeowner, which gets talked about quite a bit more. There's no telling when interest rates are going to come down. There is a lot of speculation out there that, you can buy a property now and you can refinance it in a couple of years. And I would be very careful with that, because if you look historically, in the 80s, it took about 10 years for interest rates to come down to where they were before the massive amounts of inflation and the interest rate hikes to fight that. And when you look at the amount of money that was printed during the pandemic and the amount of inflation caused by that, it's a historically insane amount of money. So in my opinion, I think that interest rates are going to stay higher for much longer than a lot of folks think they are. And I do believe that a 10% rate on a 30-year fixed rate mortgage is entirely possible. So I don't necessarily know if that will be, if you can buy something now at 7 or 8 or 9% and refinance it a year down the road for a lesser interest rate. But there will come a time when rates come down. It will. Things are cyclical like that. And I think that there will be a time when rates have come down, when prices have not yet caught up with rates coming down, where sellers haven't exactly factored that into their purchase price, and that will be the time that you will want to strike to purchase that next investment property, because the rates will be coming down, the prices will not have gone up yet, and so you'll be able to lock in that lower price and hopefully even refinance it more as the rates end up coming down. Regardless of price or interest rates, whatever, you always can make money out there somewhere in the market, somewhere in the short-term rental market or any other financial market. Just be sure that you know what your numbers are and that you're doing your research so that you can not lose money on something that is either priced too high or with the interest rate is not going to work out versus the demand. Guys, I am not a realtor. I am not even any type of certified expert. So, be sure to do your own research on any of these things. If you like this video, hit that like button for me. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe down below. Click on the links that are on the screen. They're going to tell you guys all about how we run our short-term rental business from a distance. They're going to tell you all of the cabins that we have bought, the types of places that we look for. So click on those. I appreciate you guys watching today, and I'll see you in the next one.